Part 1. The Quest Begins. Chapter 1. A Pirate's Ambition. The sea roared with a ferocity that matched the storm brewing within Captain Adrian Blackthorn's heart. The sky and ocean seemed to be locked in a fierce battle, their clash sending waves crashing against the hull of the Siren's Call. Adrian stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon where the storm clouds converged, swallowing the light. The wind howled around him, whipping through his dark hair and tugging at the edges of his long coat, but he remained unmoved. His hands gripped the ship's wheel with unwavering determination, steering his vessel through the tempest with the same steely resolve that had carried him through countless dangers before. Every gust of wind, every towering wave seemed to echo the intensity of Adrian's thoughts. The sea was a familiar adversary, one he had battled many times, yet tonight it felt different. This storm was not just a test of his seamanship but of his very will. As the wind screamed and the ship groaned under the pressure, Adrian's mind was filled with the echoes of the mysterious map he had found, the promise of untold riches, and the whispers of legends long forgotten. Yet, beneath the lure of treasure, there was something deeper, an unspoken yearning, a search for something he could not yet name. The map was his key to unlocking more than just gold. It was the gateway to a destiny intertwined with the mysteries of the sea itself. But as the Siren's Call cut through the raging waters, it was not just the storm Adrian was navigating. The uncharted island ahead, where the map led, held secrets that would challenge him in ways he had never imagined. Unknown to him, this journey would bring him face to face with Prince Kael, a cursed mermaid bound to the land by moonlight. Their meeting would set the stage for an adventure that would push Adrian beyond the limits of his ambition and into a quest that would redefine his very soul. As the horizon blurred between sea and sky, so too did the lines between his pursuit of treasure and a fate far greater than he had ever dared to dream. Adrian Blackthorn was a man of contradictions, a gentleman by birth, yet a pirate by choice. His striking gray eyes, like a storm on the horizon, held a wild, untamed glint that mirrored the unpredictable seas he ruled. His presence commanded respect, whether among his loyal crew or in the shadowy corners of taverns where whispers of his name sent shivers down spines. Adrian's reputation was as formidable as the ocean itself, built on countless daring exploits that spread like wildfire through the Caribbean. His raids on merchant ships were the stuff of legends, as were his duels with rival captains and his uncanny ability to evade the Royal Navy's relentless pursuit. Yet, for all his notorious deeds, there was one tale that eclipsed them all, the story of Adrian's unrelenting quest for the legendary treasure of the Crimson Isles. This treasure, shrouded in mystery and myth, was said to be cursed, guarded by ancient forces that no man could conquer. But the lure of its unimaginable wealth, rumored to be enough to crown any man a king, was too great for Adrian to resist. It was this treasure that drove him, pushing him beyond the boundaries of reason and safety, deeper into the treacherous waters where few dared to venture. The curse, some said, was a warning, others believed it was a test of a man's will and worth. To Adrian, it was a challenge, a call he could not ignore. His pursuit of the Crimson Isles treasure was more than just a pirate's ambition. It was a consuming obsession that shaped his every decision. Each voyage brought him closer to the elusive prize, but also deeper into the darkness of his own desires. The sea had claimed many who sought the same fortune, but Adrian was determined to succeed where others had failed. As the tales of his daring spread, so too did the whispers of the curse that loomed over his journey. But Adrian, with his unyielding resolve and stormy gaze, sailed onward, driven by a singular goal that would either make him a legend or seal his fate forever. The crew moved with practiced precision across the deck, their every action reflecting the honed skills of seasoned seafarers. These men were a hardened group, scoundrels and outcasts, each with a past steeped in secrets, buried deep beneath the waves they sailed upon. Yet despite their rough exteriors and sordid histories, they followed Captain Adrian Blackthorn with unwavering loyalty. His charisma was magnetic, his presence commanding, drawing them into his orbit with the promise of adventure and riches beyond their wildest dreams. To the crew, Adrian was more than just a captain. He was a beacon of ambition, a man whose vision was as boundless as the ocean itself. He inspired loyalty not through fear, but through the sheer force of his will and the burning intensity of his desires. Under his leadership, they had faced countless dangers, storms that threatened to tear their ship apart, battles with rival pirates, and the ever-present threat of the Royal Navy. Through it all, Adrian remained their guiding star, his ambitions blazing like a lighthouse in the darkest of nights. For Adrian, the pursuit of treasure was not just about wealth, it was about destiny. The legendary treasure of the Crimson Isles was more than just a myth. It was his calling, the ultimate prize that would cement his legacy as the greatest pirate to ever sail the seas. The crew understood this, and it fueled their own determination. They knew that with Adrian at the helm, they were not just chasing gold, they were chasing greatness, and that was a pursuit worth following to the ends of the earth. "Captain, the charts are ready," called out Mr. Graves, Adrian's first mate, his gravelly voice cutting through the sea breeze. Mr. Graves was a man who had seen more than his fair share of battles, storms, and betrayals, his weathered face etched with the lines of a life spent on the ocean. His hair, once dark as midnight, had turned silver with age, and his eyes, sharp and calculating, missed nothing. Though his voice was roughened by years of salt air and the hardships of a pirate's life, it carried a note of respect reserved for few, a respect that Adrian had earned many times over. Mr. Graves had served under many captains, but none like Adrian Blackthorne. He had been with Adrian from the beginning, back when the Siren's Call was just another ship in the fleet, and Adrian was a captain with everything to prove. Graves had seen the young captain grow into a man of legend, and though he had a reputation for being as tough as old boots, there was a quiet admiration in the way he spoke to Adrian, a recognition of the fire that drove the man who now stood at the helm. To Mr. Graves, Adrian was not just a captain, he was a force of nature, a man with a destiny tied to the very waters they sailed. As Adrian turned to acknowledge his first mate, there was a moment of silent understanding between them. The charts Mr. Graves held were more than just maps. They were the key to their future, the path to the Crimson Isles and the legendary treasure that awaited. Adrian took the charts, his stormy gray eyes scanning the carefully drawn lines that represented their course. With a nod of approval, he returned his gaze to the horizon, where the adventure of a lifetime awaited. The journey would be perilous, but with Mr. Graves and the crew by his side, Adrian knew they were ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Adrian turned with a swift, fluid motion, his coat flaring out behind him like a raven's wing as he descended the steps from the helm. His movements were deliberate, each step echoing with the quiet authority of a man who had long mastered the art of command. As his boots met the wooden deck, the sound was barely audible, a testament to the predator-like grace that marked his every action. The crew, rough and seasoned men of the sea, instinctively parted for him, a silent acknowledgement of the power that Adrian wielded. It was not just fear that guided them, but a deep-seated respect, an understanding that their captain was a force to be reckoned with. The air around Adrian seemed to hum with a quiet intensity, a palpable energy that drew the eyes of every sailor who crossed his path. His presence on the deck was magnetic, commanding attention without the need for words. The crew moved with a renewed sense of purpose, their hands working the rigging and the sails with practiced efficiency, driven by the knowledge that Adrian's sharp gaze missed nothing. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, a collective understanding that they were on the cusp of something significant, something that only a man like Adrian Blackthorne could lead them toward. As he made his way to Mr. Graves, his first mate, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The crew's deference became even more pronounced, as if they were in the presence of a legend in the making. Mr. Graves, a man of experience and wisdom, stood waiting, his weathered face betraying nothing but a deep respect for the man he had served for so long. There was no need for formalities between them. The bond they shared had been forged in the fires of countless voyages, battles, and near escapes. Adrian's approach was met with a slight nod from Graves, a gesture that spoke volumes of their mutual understanding and the unspoken trust that had seen them through stormy seas and treacherous waters. In the heart of the ship, the captain's cabin exuded an atmosphere of quiet authority, where every detail spoke of a life spent navigating the treacherous seas. The dim light of a solitary lantern flickered gently, casting elongated shadows that danced across the room like the restless waves outside. This soft, wavering glow illuminated the walls lined with shelves of weathered books and trinkets collected from distant shores, each with a story of its own. The room held a sense of order amidst the chaos of the ocean, a sanctuary where the captain could plan his next move with unwavering focus. The central table was a focal point, its surface nearly buried under a sea of maps and charts, each one meticulously marked with routes and notes penned in Adrian's precise hand. These documents, worn from countless voyages, bore the history of his adventures, with lines tracing paths through uncharted waters and arrows pointing toward hidden dangers. The captain's attention to detail was evident in the way he had annotated each map, his handwriting sharp and deliberate, a reflection of his disciplined mind. This table was more than just a workspace. It was the nerve center of his operations, where every decision that could alter the course of their journey was carefully considered. The air in the cabin was thick with the scent of aged rum and sea salt, a combination that spoke of long days spent at sea. It mingled with the faint, earthy aroma of tobacco, drifting from the pipe that rested in a carved wooden holder on his desk, a silent witness to many late-night hours of contemplation. The pipe, with its intricate design, hinted at a rare moment of indulgence in an otherwise relentless life. Together, these elements created a sensory tapestry that captured the essence of Captain Adrian Blackthorne, steady, seasoned, and ever vigilant, a man whose surroundings reflected his life's purpose and the weight of the decisions that lay before him. "Show me," Adrian commanded, his voice a low but authoritative murmur that cut through the ambient noise of the ship. He leaned over the table with an intensity that drew all attention to him. His gaze was unwavering, fixed on the map sprawled before him, its edges frayed from countless uses. The soft glow of the lantern highlighted the contours of the land, but it was the small, crimson circle at the map's center that drew his complete focus. This mark, stark against the backdrop of the ocean's vast expanse, signified their destination, the fabled Crimson Isles. Adrian's eyes traced the delicate, almost imperceptible lines that converged at the Crimson Circle, the intricately drawn routes leading to this mysterious location. The map, a tapestry of routes, dangers, and landmarks, seemed to pulse with significance under his scrutiny. Each curve and note, meticulously detailed, spoke of the many voyages that had preceded this one. The Crimson Circle, though small, represented a culmination of countless hours of navigation and strategic planning, a beacon of both promise and peril that had driven their quest from the very beginning. As the lantern's light flickered over the map, casting fleeting shadows over the marked territory, Adrian's expression hardened with determination. The Crimson Isles, shrouded in legend and enigma, held a treasure said to be cursed yet irresistibly valuable. This destination was not merely a point on the map. It was the culmination of Adrian's relentless pursuit, the prize he had sought with unwavering resolve. The gravity of the moment was palpable, as if the very air around him was charged with the anticipation of what lay ahead, a testament to the risks and rewards that awaited beyond the horizon. Graves took a deliberate step forward, his rough hand pointing to the intricate details on the map spread before them. His voice, seasoned with years of experience and caution, cut through the tension in the cabin. "We're here," he said, indicating a spot just off the coast of Hispaniola, his finger resting on the map with a steady precision. The mark was a stark contrast to the vast expanse of ocean surrounding it, a mere speck in the grand scheme of their voyage. The map, marked with the familiar landmarks of their current position, seemed almost to pulse with the gravity of their next move. He continued, his gaze shifting northeast, where he indicated the location of the Crimson Isles. "The Crimson Isles are 3 days' sail from here, if the winds are favorable," he explained, his tone carrying an edge of both hope and trepidation. The distance was not far in the context of their journey, yet the unpredictable nature of the sea made the route fraught with uncertainty. Graves' eyes reflected the seriousness of his words, the long hours spent navigating and the many tales of sailors who had ventured too close to these perilous shores. Graves leaned in, his voice dropping to a near whisper as he conveyed the risks they faced. "But the waters round those parts are treacherous, Captain. Many ships have been lost trying to navigate the reefs and shoals," he warned. His finger traced the dangerous areas on the map, the delicate lines marking underwater hazards that had claimed more than their share of vessels. The weight of his warning was evident in the creases of his weathered face, a silent testament to the countless dangers that lay ahead and the respect they commanded. Adrian nodded slowly, his eyes fixed intently on the map, where the crimson circle seemed to pulse with a hidden promise. His nod was almost imperceptible, a subtle acknowledgement of the peril that lay ahead. "And that's why the treasure remains unfound," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, more to himself than to Graves. His expression was one of deep contemplation, the weight of their quest pressing heavily on his shoulders. The map, with its intricate details and dangerous warnings, was a constant reminder of the elusive nature of their goal, a goal that had remained just out of reach for countless others. As he spoke, Adrian's gaze remained unwavering, a testament to his resolve. "But that won't stop us," he continued, his tone firm and resolute. His words were laced with a sense of purpose, a declaration that despite the dangers and uncertainties, their determination was unshakable. The Crimson Isles, with their mysterious allure and formidable challenges, represented more than just a destination. They were the embodiment of everything Adrian had worked for. His focus was unyielding, driven by the belief that their pursuit was not merely a quest for riches but a pursuit of something far greater. "The Crimson Isles hold the key to everything we've been working toward," Adrian said, his voice growing more fervent as he spoke of their ultimate goal. "Wealth, power, and the legacy of the Blackthorn name." The promise of the treasure was intertwined with his ambitions, a beacon guiding him through the perils of the sea. His commitment to the Blackthorn legacy was evident in his every word, a driving force that propelled him forward despite the risks. The quest for the treasure was more than a personal endeavor. It was a chance to cement his place in history and secure a future that would define the Blackthorn name for generations to come. Adrian straightened his posture, his form emanating an aura of unwavering determination. He fixed Graves with a piercing, intense stare that left no room for doubt about the seriousness of his command. The weight of his words hung in the air, a clear indication of the gravity of their mission. "Prepare the crew," he instructed, his voice firm and commanding. There was no room for hesitation in his tone. It was a call to action, a directive that underscored the urgency and importance of their impending departure. The crew needed to be ready, their roles defined, and their spirits high for the voyage that lay ahead. Adrian's gaze didn't waver as he continued, his expression a mixture of focus and resolve. "We set sail at dawn," he declared, emphasizing the exact time they would begin their journey. The dawn was a symbolic start, marking the beginning of their quest for the Crimson Isles. The early morning departure would not only give them a head start but also symbolize the fresh beginning of their pursuit. Adrian's commitment to this schedule reflected his strategic thinking and the meticulous planning that had gone into this expedition, ensuring that every detail was attended to with precision. In a final, decisive tone, Adrian added, "And make sure the cannons are ready. We may not be the only ones after this prize." His words were a stern reminder of the dangers that awaited them. The possibility of encountering rivals or adversaries who shared their quest for the treasure was a very real concern. By ensuring the cannons were prepared and operational, Adrian was taking a proactive stance against any potential threats. His foresight in addressing this issue highlighted his experience and the harsh realities of their venture, reinforcing the need for vigilance and readiness as they embarked on their perilous journey. Graves nodded with a deliberate, measured motion, his face reflecting a shift in demeanor that matched the gravity of Adrian's command. His expression hardened, the lines of his weathered face deepening as he absorbed the weight of the responsibility laid upon him. The nod was not merely a gesture of agreement, but a solemn acknowledgement of the seriousness of their mission. His resolve was evident in the set of his jaw and the steely glint in his eyes, signaling his commitment to the task ahead. The gravity of the situation was mirrored in the way Graves carried himself, his usual rugged demeanor now tinged with a fierce determination. "Aye, Captain," he replied, his voice steady and resolute. The simplicity of his response belied the depth of his understanding. It was a pledge of loyalty and readiness to execute the captain's orders. The brief, affirming reply was a testament to his unwavering support, and the unspoken trust that existed between him and Adrian. It was clear that Graves was fully prepared to shoulder the weight of the preparations and the potential dangers that lay ahead. As Graves turned to carry out the orders, the atmosphere in the cabin was charged with a renewed sense of purpose. His steps were purposeful, each movement reflecting the seriousness of their forthcoming voyage. The response, "Aye, Captain," encapsulated not just his agreement, but a commitment to seeing the mission through to its end, no matter the challenges they might face. His readiness to act was a crucial element in the unfolding adventure, underscoring the unity and resolve that would drive their quest for the Crimson Isles. As Graves departed to execute the captain's orders, Adrian remained in the cabin, his presence a solitary figure against the backdrop of the dimly lit room. He approached the map once more, his fingers gently tracing the crimson circle that marked the location of the Crimson Isles. The intricate lines and annotations on the map seemed to come alive under his touch, each curve and mark whispering secrets of the journey ahead. The room was filled with a palpable sense of anticipation as Adrian's fingers lingered over the map, reflecting on the weight of their mission and the promises the Isles held. The stories Adrian had heard about the treasure were as varied as they were numerous. Some tales spoke of mountains of gold, vast and glittering, enough to rival the wealth of empires. Others painted a picture of jewels beyond imagining, each one a marvel of nature's craftsmanship. These accounts were tantalizing, each one fueling the allure of their quest. The visions of unimaginable riches and the legacy that awaited them were vivid in his mind, each story adding another layer to the mystique of the Crimson Isles. Yet, it was not merely the tales of wealth that captivated Adrian's imagination. There was one story, whispered in the shadowy corners of taverns where only the bravest dared to tread, that intrigued him the most. This tale spoke of a treasure with a power far greater than mere gold or jewels, an artifact of ancient magic or lost knowledge that could alter the course of their lives and destinies. The whispers of this legend had reached Adrian's ears in hushed tones, filling him with a sense of both wonder and apprehension. As he stood in the cabin, the gravity of this mysterious story weighed heavily on him, driving his determination to uncover not just the riches, but the deeper secrets hidden within the Crimson Isles. The legend that surrounded the treasure spoke of a curse as old as the sea itself. It was said to be guarded by spirits of the damned, spectral entities bound to the very heart of the Crimson Isles. These were not ordinary spirits, but the restless souls of men who had once sought the treasure with insatiable greed. Their desire had led them to their doom, their lives consumed by their relentless pursuit of wealth. Now, their cursed existence was a perpetual torment, trapped between worlds, forever tethered to the treasure they had failed to possess. The stories painted a chilling picture of these spectral guardians, who were said to roam the darkened corners of the Isles. They were described as ethereal shadows, their forms barely visible but their presence profoundly ominous. These spirits were not just passive observers. Their hunger and anger were palpable, a reflection of their unfulfilled desires and the eternal punishment of their avarice. Their existence was a haunting reminder of the price of greed, a constant, eerie vigilance over the treasure that had become their prison. As Adrian considered the tales, the weight of the curse added a new dimension to his quest. The notion of confronting these malevolent spirits, eternally bound to guard the treasure, made the journey not just a pursuit of wealth but a battle against the supernatural. The legends spoke of encounters with these spectral entities, of men who had faced their wrath and paid the ultimate price. The fearsome prospect of such an encounter was a sobering reminder of the dangers that lay ahead, heightening the sense of dread and resolve as Adrian prepared for the perilous voyage to the Crimson Isles. Adrian Blackthorne was a man forged in the crucible of countless dangers, a figure who stood resolute in the face of superstition and fear. His demeanor was unshakable, a testament to his experiences that had seen him confront death more times than he could count. Each encounter with peril had only served to reinforce his resolve, with Adrian emerging victorious time and again. The shadow of curses and haunted legends held little sway over him. They were mere obstacles to be overcome in his quest for the ultimate prize. His unyielding nature was a product of a lifetime spent challenging fate, shaping him into a figure of indomitable will. The treasure of the Crimson Isles, with its dark legends and cursed guardians, was merely another challenge for Adrian to conquer. His gaze, unwavering and determined, betrayed no hint of fear as he contemplated the dangers that lay ahead. The allure of the treasure was more than just a material prize. It represented the culmination of his ambitions and the legacy he sought to build. To Adrian, the cost of achieving his goal was inconsequential compared to the rewards that awaited. His mind was set on claiming the treasure, driven by a fierce determination that refused to be deterred by superstitious warnings or the whispers of the damned. At the heart of every pirate burned a relentless fire, a drive that pushed them beyond the ordinary bounds of fear and caution. For Adrian Blackthorne, this insatiable hunger for more was a defining trait, a force that propelled him forward in his quest for greatness. The promise of the treasure was not merely about wealth but about proving himself against the greatest odds. It was a challenge that embodied the spirit of piracy, a never-ending pursuit of the next conquest, the next thrill, and the ultimate prize. This unquenchable desire was what set him apart, making him not just a captain but a legend in the making. Adrian emerged onto the deck, greeted by the crisp, cool night air that contrasted sharply with the warmth of the cabin. The sensation of the breeze against his skin was invigorating, a refreshing reminder of the vastness of the world beyond the confines of the ship. The deck, bathed in the soft glow of the lanterns, seemed to come alive under the canopy of the night sky. The ship's timbers creaked gently beneath his feet as he took a deep breath, savoring the tranquility that the night offered amidst the anticipation of their voyage. Above him, the stars were a breathtaking spectacle, their brilliance piercing through the darkness like a field of scattered diamonds on a rich, velvet canvas. The celestial display was both mesmerizing and comforting, a vast expanse of light that seemed to stretch infinitely into the cosmos. Each star glittered with its own distinct luster, forming patterns and constellations that served as an ancient, celestial map. This night sky was not just a backdrop but a guide, a reminder of the navigational aids that had steered countless adventurers before him. As Adrian gazed upward, the stars took on a symbolic significance, representing not only the path he would traverse but also the destiny he sought. The twinkling lights above seemed to align with his own aspirations, each star a beacon of hope and determination. The night sky's grandeur resonated with his resolve, amplifying his sense of purpose as he prepared for the journey ahead. With the stars as his guide, Adrian felt a deep connection to the explorers of old, their legacy intertwined with his own quest for greatness, and a newfound determination to seize the treasure of the Crimson Isles. As the crew bustled about, preparing the ship for the journey that lay ahead, Adrian stood on the deck, absorbing the final moments of calm before the adventure began. The crew's movements were purposeful and efficient, their hands deftly securing ropes, adjusting sails, and making final checks with practiced ease. The energy on the deck was one of focused anticipation, each member of the crew acutely aware of the significance of the voyage. Adrian watched with a sense of pride and satisfaction, knowing that every detail was falling into place for the grand expedition. He turned his gaze toward the horizon, where the first light of dawn was beginning to touch the edges of the sky. A faint smile played on his lips, a reflection of the excitement and determination that burned within him. The horizon, with its promise of new lands and untold treasures, seemed to beckon him forward, its vast expanse a canvas of possibilities. In that moment, Adrian felt a profound connection to the journey ahead, as if the very fabric of his ambition was woven into the distant line where sea met sky. The Crimson Isles loomed large in his thoughts, their allure representing the culmination of years of relentless pursuit and daring exploits. The fulfillment of his greatest ambition was not merely about claiming the treasure, but about realizing a dream that had driven him through countless perils. With the ship ready and the crew prepared, Adrian felt a surge of exhilaration and resolve. The adventure that awaited promised not just the potential for immense wealth but the chance to solidify his legacy as one of the greatest pirates to ever sail the seas. As he prepared to set sail, the promise of the Crimson Isles fueled his anticipation and cemented his determination to see the quest through to its triumphant end. Chapter 2: A Mysterious Map. With the storm now a distant memory, the sky stretched above in a rich, deep indigo, its hue a stark contrast to the chaotic tempest that had raged just hours before. The moon, now rising steadily, cast its silvery light over the sea, turning the waves into a mesmerizing expanse of polished obsidian. Each ripple and crest of the water glimmered under the moonlight, creating a surface so smooth and reflective that it seemed almost otherworldly. The calm after the storm was both serene and profound, a tranquil interlude in the midst of their relentless voyage. On the deck of the Siren's Call, the crew moved with a practiced, quiet efficiency, their movements synchronized with the familiar rhythms of the ship. The harsh winds and pounding rain of the storm had been replaced by a gentle breeze, and the crew's demeanor reflected the ease that came with their routine tasks. Their voices were hushed, a testament to their respect for the night's calm and the need for vigilance, as they prepared for the evening watch. There was a sense of purpose in their actions, each man performing his duties with an ingrained precision that spoke of countless nights spent on similar tasks. As they prepared for the night's watch, the crew's subdued conversation was punctuated by the soft clinking of equipment and the rustling of sails being adjusted. The scene on deck was one of disciplined calm, a contrast to the earlier chaos of the storm. The rising moon bathed everything in a soft, silvery glow, creating an atmosphere of quiet contemplation and resolve. The crew's readiness was a reflection of their dedication and expertise, ensuring that the Siren's Call would remain steady and true on its course, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. In the subdued light of his cabin, the atmosphere was thick with a sense of solitary reflection as Captain Adrian Blackthorne sat hunched over his desk. The flickering glow of a single lantern cast elongated shadows that danced across the walls, adding to the somber mood of the room. Adrian's gaze was fixed on the map before him, a parchment so old and weathered that it seemed almost to whisper secrets of the past. The dim light revealed the intricate lines and faded ink of the map, each curve and mark holding the weight of his deepest aspirations and fears. Clutched in Adrian's hand was a goblet of dark rum, its rich, amber contents catching the light in fleeting glimmers. He raised it to his lips occasionally, taking measured sips as he studied the map with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The rum's deep, robust flavor offered a fleeting solace from the relentless pursuit that consumed him. Yet, despite the temporary comfort the drink provided, his thoughts were preoccupied with the challenges and mysteries that lay beyond the calm waters they now sailed. The map, spread out before him on the scarred wooden desk, was a stark reminder of the treacherous path that still lay ahead. The desk itself bore the marks of countless voyages, its surface scarred and worn from years of use. It was a fitting testament to the many challenges Adrian had faced and the adventures that had shaped him into the seasoned captain he was today. As he traced the lines of the map with his eyes, the old parchment seemed to come alive, each detail evoking memories of distant lands and hidden treasures. Adrian's focus remained unwavering, driven by a determination to unravel the secrets of the map and claim the elusive prize it promised. The calm of the waters outside belied the storm of thoughts that churned within him, as he plotted the course for the journey that would define his legacy. The map had arrived in Adrian's possession just hours earlier, a delivery shrouded in the clandestine ambience of a dockside tavern in Port Royal. The setting had been one of dimly lit corners and the muted clamor of voices, where secrets were traded as freely as coins. The messenger who handed over the map was a wiry, sunken-eyed figure whose presence seemed to blend seamlessly with the shadowy atmosphere of the tavern. His clothes bore the unmistakable scent of the sea mingled with stale ale, a reflection of the rough life he had led and the countless stories he had likely heard in his own travels. The messenger had spoken little, his words terse and imbued with an air of mystery. His main contribution was a brief explanation that the map had been a prized possession of his family for generations, passed down through hushed whispers and secretive exchanges. The story he relayed hinted at the map's deep connection to a legendary treasure, a narrative that only added to the allure and gravity of the document. The implication was clear. The map was not merely an artifact but a key to something far greater, a tantalizing promise of wealth and glory. For a price, the map had become Adrian's, the transaction sealed with a few clinking coins and a shared nod of understanding. The price was secondary to the significance of the map. Its true value lay in the possibilities it represented. As Adrian held the map in his cabin, the weight of its history and the promise of the treasure it pointed to began to settle heavily on his shoulders. The tale of the map, its whispered legends, and its journey through generations only heightened his determination to uncover the secrets it harbored and achieve the ambitions that had long driven him. The man had departed with the same swift, elusive air that marked his arrival, vanishing into the bustling crowd of the dockside tavern as if he were a mere shadow among many. His departure was marked by a casual, almost imperceptible smirk that hinted at the satisfaction of a deal completed and the weight of secrets exchanged. Clutched tightly in his grasp was a purse of gold, its contents a testament to the value Adrian had placed on the map. The man's swift exit seemed to underscore the urgency and gravity of the transaction, leaving behind only the lingering scent of sea air and ale. Adrian, undeterred by the fleeting nature of the encounter, had made his way back to the siren's call with a sense of resolute purpose. The promise contained within the map was too compelling to ignore, a beacon of potential that beckoned him forward. His mind raced with possibilities as he navigated through the winding streets of Port Royal, the weight of the map in his coat pocket a tangible reminder of the quest that lay ahead. The urgency in his step was driven by a fierce determination to uncover what secrets and opportunities the map might reveal, pushing him to return to his ship without delay. Once aboard the Siren's Call, Adrian's focus was unwavering as he turned his attention back to the map, the dim cabin now filled with a sense of palpable anticipation. The tantalizing allure of the treasure hinted at by the map was too great to resist, and Adrian's mind was already racing with plans and strategies. The map, now spread across his desk, promised more than mere wealth. It was a gateway to new adventures and a chance to fulfill the grand ambitions that had long fueled his journey. As he settled into the quietude of his cabin, the excitement of the unknown and the potential it held filled him with a renewed sense of purpose, readying him for the challenges and discoveries that lay ahead. Now, in the solitude of his cabin, Adrian turned his full attention to the ancient parchment laid out before him. The dim light from the lantern cast a warm, flickering glow on the map, highlighting its age and the passage of time it had endured. The edges of the parchment were frayed and worn, evidence of years spent in secretive hands and hidden corners. The ink, though faded, retained enough clarity to reveal the map's intricate details. Each line and mark on the surface spoke of a history rich with mystery and adventure, drawing Adrian deeper into its secrets. The map was adorned with strange symbols in the corners, their meaning elusive but unmistakably significant. These cryptic markings added an air of enigma to the map, hinting at arcane knowledge or hidden lore that might be crucial to deciphering its full message. The unfamiliar coastline depicted on the map was equally intriguing, showing an island shrouded in a veil of mist. The mist seemed almost tangible, adding a layer of obscurity and allure to the island, making it all the more enticing and enigmatic. The jagged peaks that rose from the island's silhouette appeared to pierce the heavens, their sharp, angular forms contrasting dramatically with the surrounding mist. The rugged terrain of the island suggested both beauty and danger, a landscape that could hold the key to the legendary treasure. Adrian's gaze was fixed on these details, each feature sparking his imagination and strategic planning. The map's depiction of the island was not just a geographical representation but a challenge, a call to uncover the truths hidden within its mist-covered peaks and rugged landscape. The promise of what lay ahead filled him with a sense of excitement and anticipation, setting the stage for the journey that would test his resolve and skills. Adrian's finger moved methodically along the route outlined on the ancient map, tracing its path through a labyrinth of treacherous waters. The route was anything but straightforward. It wound through a series of perilous obstacles, each one marked with meticulous detail. The map's depiction of reefs, hidden beneath the surface, and whirlpools that could ensnare the unwary was both daunting and exhilarating. Each element of the journey was a potential hazard, requiring skillful navigation and unwavering focus to avoid the dangers that lurked beneath the surface. The further Adrian's finger moved along the route, the more the map revealed its intricate design. The path was fraught with challenges, leading through a maze of natural obstacles that seemed almost designed to protect the treasure from those unworthy or unprepared. The careful plotting of these dangers underscored the complexity of the journey ahead and the meticulous nature of those who had crafted the map. Adrian's mind raced with strategies and precautions, considering how best to navigate these perilous waters and reach his ultimate destination. At the end of the route, marked with a single, ominous X, lay the ultimate goal, the Crimson Isles. The simplicity of the X belied the significance of the location it marked, a culmination of all the trials and dangers described along the route. The Crimson Isles were not just a destination but a symbol of the quest's culmination, holding the promise of the legendary treasure that had driven Adrian's pursuit. The weight of the X on the map filled him with a renewed sense of purpose, solidifying his resolve to face the challenges ahead and claim the treasure that lay hidden on the mist-shrouded island. Adrian's heart quickened with anticipation as he studied the map, the legends of the Crimson Isles coming vividly to mind. The tales he had heard over the years painted a haunting picture of the island's landscape, describing it as a place where the very earth seemed to bleed. The legends spoke of rocks stained a deep, unsettling red, a grim reminder of the countless souls who had ventured in search of the treasure and met their untimely end. The imagery of the land itself bearing the marks of those who had failed created a palpable sense of foreboding and challenge. The stories surrounding the Crimson Isles were as varied as they were dramatic, each one adding layers to the island's dark reputation. They spoke of unimaginable wealth, treasures beyond the wildest dreams of any pirate, but also of cursed gold that came with a steep price. The allure of such riches was countered by the ominous warnings of a curse that could bring ruin to those who sought the treasure without regard for the consequences. This duality of temptation and danger made the quest all the more compelling, heightening Adrian's resolve to uncover the truth of the legends. Additionally, the tales spoke of the spirits of the damned who were said to guard the treasure, their restless souls bound to the island by their greed and failure. These spectral guardians were described as vengeful and relentless, adding a supernatural element to the dangers of the journey. The thought of confronting such entities was both daunting and thrilling, a challenge that would test Adrian's bravery and cunning. As he contemplated the legends and their implications, Adrian felt a surge of determination to face whatever awaited him on the Crimson Isles, driven by the promise of untold wealth and the challenge of overcoming the island's dark, legendary guardians. Adrian Blackthorne was far from an ordinary man. He was a figure forged by a lifetime of defying the odds and triumphing against the most formidable challenges. His life had been a series of daring exploits and narrow escapes, each one reinforcing his reputation as a master of overcoming adversity. Whether battling rival pirates or navigating through uncharted waters, Adrian had consistently managed to snatch victory from the jaws of death. His resilience and audacity had become his defining traits, shaping him into a legend among sailors and adventurers alike. The map before him was not merely a tool for navigation but a symbol of the challenge that lay ahead. Its weathered edges and intricate details represented more than just a route. They embodied the very essence of the adventure that Adrian craved. To him, the map was a call to adventure, an invitation to embrace the unknown and confront the perils that awaited. The sense of challenge it presented was irresistible, igniting the thrill of the quest and the promise of glory that came with it. For Adrian, every obstacle detailed on the map was an opportunity to prove his mettle and fulfill his boundless ambitions. As he studied the map and considered the legends it held, Adrian's resolve hardened. The prospect of facing the dangers described, from treacherous waters to cursed spirits, only fueled his determination to embark on the journey. He viewed the map not as a mere guide but as a testament to the grand adventure he was about to undertake. The challenge was exactly what he sought, a chance to push beyond his limits and etch his name into the annals of history. With a fierce sense of purpose, Adrian prepared to take on the adventure, ready to confront whatever the Crimson Isles had in store for him. Adrian leaned back in his chair, the aged leather creaking softly beneath him as he settled into a comfortable position. The familiar, worn texture of the chair, a loyal companion through countless nights of strategizing and reflection, seemed to offer a momentary respite from the whirlwind of thoughts that consumed him. He raised the goblet of rum to his lips, savoring the anticipation of the drink's warmth, and took a slow, deliberate sip. The rich, dark liquid, tinged with the subtle notes of oak and spice, enveloped his senses in a comforting embrace. As the rum slid smoothly down his throat, it delivered a pleasant, fiery burn that invigorated his spirit. The sensation was a welcome grounding force, a way to anchor himself amidst the tumultuous sea of possibilities and plans that surged through his mind. The warmth of the rum contrasted sharply with the chill of the night air that seeped into the cabin, creating a sensory experience that both soothed and energized him. Each sip was a moment of reflection, a pause to consider the path that lay ahead and the challenges he would face. Even as the rum provided a fleeting sense of calm, Adrian's mind continued to race with the myriad possibilities that the journey to the Crimson Isles promised. The map's enigmatic details and the legends associated with it stirred his imagination, fueling a sense of anticipation and excitement. The rum, while grounding him in the present, also heightened his resolve and focus, sharpening his readiness for the adventure that awaited. As he pondered the potential trials and triumphs of the voyage, Adrian embraced the duality of his experience, both the serene enjoyment of the moment and the fervent drive to conquer the unknown. Adrian's gaze drifted back to the map, his eyes lingering on the faded ink and the cryptic symbols etched into the ancient parchment. The map, with its weathered edges and mysterious markings, seemed almost to pulse with the weight of the secrets it held. The symbols, obscure and enigmatic, hinted at dangers that remained shrouded in uncertainty, their true nature a tantalizing mystery. To the casual observer, the map might appear as little more than a relic of forgotten lore, a whimsical pursuit that led only to folly. Yet for Adrian, it was a beacon of promise and possibility, a tantalizing glimpse into an adventure that beckoned him with the allure of the unknown. The notion of pursuing such a challenge might seem like a fool's errand to those who lack the conviction or the courage to face the perils ahead. The treasure, spoken of in hushed tones and believed by many to be mere myth, had eluded countless seekers who had ventured into the unknown only to return empty-handed or not at all. Yet for Adrian Blackthorne, the pursuit of this treasure was far from a senseless quest. It represented an opportunity to achieve something that few had even dared to attempt, a chance to prove himself against the odds and claim a prize that had remained tantalizingly out of reach for generations. To Adrian, the map was not just a guide but a challenge that he was eager to accept. It was a chance to etch his name into the annals of history, to rise above the legends and become a part of the very story he had heard in countless taverns and whispered conversations. The promise of treasure, the allure of adventure, and the thrill of overcoming the obstacles laid out before him were the driving forces behind his determination. As he contemplated the journey ahead, Adrian felt a surge of resolve and excitement, fully prepared to confront whatever trials awaited him in his quest to claim the treasure and secure his legacy. A knock on the door sliced through Adrian's reverie, drawing his attention away from the ancient map spread before him. He looked up as Mr. Graves entered the cabin, his presence a stark contrast to the dimly lit solitude Adrian had been immersed in. Graves' expression conveyed a blend of curiosity and concern, a reflection of his deep respect for Adrian and the seriousness with which he approached their shared mission. The grizzled first mate's eyes, sharp and observant, took in the scene before him. Adrian hunched over the map, the goblet of rum still clutched in his hand, and sensed the weight of the impending journey. Graves' voice broke the silence with a tone of practical urgency, as he reported that the crew was prepared and eager to follow whatever course Adrian decided upon. His words carried the assurance of a seasoned sailor who had weathered many storms and faced numerous challenges alongside Adrian. The readiness of the men was a testament to their loyalty and the confidence they placed in their captain's leadership. Graves' presence was a grounding force, a reminder of the team's collective commitment to the adventure that lay ahead. Adrian's gaze shifted from the map to Graves, a flicker of appreciation in his eyes. The first mate's timely interruption was a welcome anchor, pulling him back from the depths of contemplation and into the practical realities of their mission. With the crew's readiness and Graves' unwavering support, Adrian felt a renewed sense of purpose. He nodded, acknowledging the readiness of his crew, and allowed himself a moment to focus on the practicalities of setting their course. The journey to the Crimson Isles was no longer a distant dream but an imminent reality, and with Graves at his side and the crew prepared, Adrian's resolve to face the challenges ahead solidified. Adrian nodded decisively, his movements deliberate as he folded the map with meticulous care. Each crease was smoothed with practiced precision, the ancient parchment yielding reluctantly to his touch. As he folded it, the map's enigmatic symbols and faded routes were carefully tucked away, its secrets preserved for the journey ahead. With a final adjustment, he slipped the folded map into the inner pocket of his coat, securing it close to his heart. The act was both practical and symbolic, marking the transition from planning to action. Graves watched with a mixture of anticipation and readiness, understanding the significance of the moment. The crew's preparations and the steady hand of their captain were converging toward a singular purpose. Adrian's next words, spoken with a blend of authority and excitement, left no room for doubt. "We sail at dawn, Graves. The Crimson Isles." The statement was more than a directive. It was a declaration of intent, a commitment to the course that would chart the course for the days to come. As Adrian finished speaking, the weight of the decision settled over him and his first mate. The imminent departure at dawn brought with it a sense of urgency and purpose, marking the start of an adventure that promised both danger and reward. Graves nodded in acknowledgement, his expression one of unwavering support. With the map secured and the course set, Adrian felt a surge of readiness for the journey ahead. The prospect of the Crimson Isles, with its mysteries and challenges, loomed large, and Adrian's determination to face them was resolute. The next few hours would be filled with the final preparations, but for now, the anticipation of the adventure awaited with the first light of dawn. Graves' eyes widened slightly, a subtle indication of surprise at the captain's firm decision. Though the reaction was fleeting, it reflected the gravity of the choice Adrian had made, one that carried both risk and promise. However, years of serving under Adrian had instilled in Graves an unwavering trust in his captain's judgment. The first mate knew better than to challenge or second-guess Adrian's decisions, regardless of how formidable the task at hand might seem. The captain's authority was well-earned and deeply respected, and Graves had long understood the importance of supporting and executing his orders without hesitation. With a measured tone of respect, Graves responded, "Aye, Captain." The simplicity of the affirmation belied the depth of his commitment and the weight of the responsibility he was about to undertake. His voice carried a blend of loyalty and professionalism, a reflection of the many voyages they had shared and the challenges they had faced together. The respect in his tone was evident, acknowledging Adrian's leadership and the seriousness of the mission ahead. After giving a final nod of acknowledgement, Graves turned and made his way out of the cabin. His departure was purposeful and brisk, as he set out to relay the captain's orders to the crew. The task ahead was clear: to ensure that every member of the crew was prepared and ready for the journey to the Crimson Isles. As Graves moved through the ship, his mind was already focused on the practicalities of preparation and the critical need for coordination. The excitement of the impending adventure was palpable, and with Adrian's command given, Graves resolved to support the mission and ensure its success was unwavering. Left alone once more, Adrian rose from his chair and made his way to the window, seeking solace in the quiet contemplation of the night. The cabin's interior, filled with the remnants of his earlier deliberations, faded into the background as he focused on the serene expanse outside. The window offered a panoramic view of the tranquil sea, its surface a dark, undulating expanse that shimmered under the rising moon. The calm waters seemed to stretch endlessly, a vast, inviting canvas that held the promise of the journey to come. As Adrian gazed out, the wind whispered softly through the ship's rigging, its sound a soothing accompaniment to the stillness of the night. The gentle breeze carried with it the distinct scent of salt, a reminder of the ocean's presence and the adventures that lay beyond. This familiar aroma, mingling with the cool night air, evoked memories of past voyages and the countless horizons he had chased. The scent was both comforting and invigorating, reinforcing his sense of anticipation and readiness for the voyage ahead. The sea's tranquil beauty contrasted sharply with the excitement brewing within Adrian. The calmness of the night was deceptive, hiding the challenges and thrills that awaited them with the dawn. Yet, this moment of quiet reflection was a necessary pause before the storm of activity that would accompany their departure. Adrian's thoughts drifted to the journey to the Crimson Isles, the map's mysteries, and the treasure that lay ahead. The peaceful night outside the window served as a final respite, a chance to gather his thoughts and prepare for the adventure that would soon disrupt the calm with its promise of danger and discovery. Adrian's fingers grazed the map hidden within the inner pocket of his coat, the familiar texture of the aged parchment offering a reassuring touch. The subtle movement was almost instinctive, a gesture that connected him to the core of his quest. As his fingertips traced the outline of the map, A small, secretive smile curved his lips, betraying the excitement and satisfaction he felt. The smile was not just a reflection of the map's promise, but a manifestation of his deep-seated passion for the adventures that lay ahead. The journey to the Crimson Isles was fraught with peril, and Adrian was acutely aware of the dangers that awaited him. The sea would undoubtedly test their mettle with unpredictable storms, and rival treasure hunters might seek to claim the prize before him. The unknown elements of the voyage added an element of unpredictability that could challenge even the most seasoned sailor. Yet, these very dangers were what made the adventure irresistible to Adrian. The thrill of navigating through such trials and emerging victorious was precisely what fueled his ambitions and drive. For Adrian, the promise of danger and the thrill of the unknown were not deterrents, but rather the essence of his existence. Each challenge was an opportunity to prove his prowess and assert his dominance over the hardships that lay ahead. The journey was not just a quest for treasure, but a chance to engage with the very elements that had shaped his life and career. As he prepared to embark on this new adventure, Adrian embraced the risks with enthusiasm, knowing that the pursuit of such daring goals was what he lived for. The journey to the Crimson Isles would be a testament to his skills and courage, and he was ready to face whatever awaited him. As the moon climbed higher into the sky, its silvery light casting an ethereal path across the gently undulating waves, Adrian Blackthorne stood resolute, a figure of unwavering determination against the backdrop of the tranquil night. The moon's luminescence reflected off the sea, creating a shimmering pathway that seemed to lead directly toward the horizon, an inviting beacon guiding him toward his destiny. The serenity of the scene was in stark contrast to the storm of ambition and resolve brewing within Adrian, but it only served to heighten his sense of purpose. With the cool night air brushing against his face and the gentle lapping of the waves beneath the ship, Adrian made a silent vow to himself. His thoughts were firmly fixed on the treasure that awaited on the Crimson Isles, a prize that had eluded so many before him. The weight of his promise was heavy, but it was also electrifying, charging him with a fierce determination to succeed where others had failed. The vow was not merely a statement of intent but a declaration of his unyielding commitment to claim the treasure, regardless of the obstacles that lay in wait. The quiet resolve of his vow was underscored by the moon's tranquil glow, a stark reminder of the journey ahead and the sacrifices it might demand. Adrian's resolve was clear: the treasure of the Crimson Isles would be his, no matter the cost. The path he had chosen was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but his confidence and ambition drove him forward. As the moonlight bathed the sea in a silvery sheen, Adrian's silent promise to himself echoed with the certainty of a man ready to face whatever challenges the journey would bring, with the ultimate goal of securing his place in the annals of history. With the resolve of his silent vow still echoing in his mind, Adrian turned away from the window, leaving behind the tranquil, moonlit view of the sea. The serene expanse outside had offered a moment of reflection and calm, but now it was time to transition from contemplation to action. As he moved away from the window, the soft creak of the floorboards beneath his boots seemed to signal a shift in the atmosphere, a transition from the quiet introspection of the night to the bustling activity of preparation. Adrian's mind was already shifting focus to the adventure that awaited him with the dawn. The early morning light would bring the beginning of their voyage to the Crimson Isles, a journey fraught with peril and promise. The tasks at hand were clear: rallying the crew, setting the course, and braving the dangers that lay ahead. His thoughts were filled with the excitement of the forthcoming challenges, and the anticipation of setting sail brought a renewed energy to his stride. The adventure was no longer a distant dream but an imminent reality, demanding his full attention and readiness. As he prepared to leave his cabin and join the crew, Adrian's determination was palpable. The transition from the calm, reflective moment to the dynamic preparation for departure marked the beginning of a new chapter in his quest. The promise of dawn and the adventure it heralded filled him with a sense of purpose and urgency. With the map securely tucked away and his silent vow guiding him, Adrian was ready to embrace the challenges and opportunities that awaited him at the break of day, fully prepared to face the new adventure with unwavering resolve. Chapter 3: Setting Sail. The dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the vast expanse of the ocean. The first light of day painted the sky in warm shades of amber and rose, blending seamlessly into the deep blue of the receding night. The calm waters mirrored the brilliant colors, creating a breathtaking panorama that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was a moment of quiet beauty, a peaceful prelude to the journey that lay ahead. As the sun climbed higher, its rays began to illuminate the ship, bringing the world around it to life with a vibrant, golden glow. The sails of the Siren's Call billowed in the fresh morning breeze, capturing the wind with a sharp snap that echoed across the deck. The sound was crisp and invigorating, a signal that the ship was ready to embrace the open sea. Each sail filled with the steady gusts, propelling the vessel forward with a grace that belied its size. The sturdy timbers creaked as they adjusted to the movement, the ship responding eagerly to the wind's command. It was a perfect morning for setting sail, the conditions promising smooth passage as the Siren's Call began her journey toward the distant horizon. On deck, the crew moved with purposeful energy, their spirits high with the anticipation of the voyage ahead. Each man carried out his duties with precision, their coordinated efforts a testament to the discipline and experience that had been honed over countless voyages. The air was filled with the sounds of work, ropes being secured, orders called out, and the steady rhythm of boots on wood. Despite the challenges that awaited them, there was a palpable sense of excitement and camaraderie among the crew. The day had begun, and with it, the adventure that they had all been preparing for. Captain Adrian Blackthorne stood tall at the helm of the Siren's Call, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon where the sky met the sea. The early morning light cast a golden glow over the waters, but Adrian's thoughts were far from the tranquil beauty of the dawn. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept across the vast expanse before him, searching for any sign of what lay ahead. Each wave seemed to whisper of the mysteries and dangers that awaited them, and his mind churned with the possibilities. This was no ordinary voyage. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain, but that only fueled the fire within him. In the inner pocket of his coat, the ancient map rested heavily against his chest, its presence a constant reminder of the secrets it held. Adrian could almost feel its weight pressing against him, as if the parchment itself were urging him forward. The map was more than just a guide, it was a key to a destiny he had long sought. Every line, every symbol, hinted at both great fortune and grave danger. As his fingers brushed against the outline of the map, he felt a thrill of anticipation that quickened his pulse. The journey ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but Adrian had never been one to shy away from risk. The promise of treasure was too alluring, and the potential perils only added to the allure. Today marked the beginning of a journey that could lead to unimaginable riches, or untold peril. The path to the Crimson Isles was fraught with challenges, both natural and man-made, but Adrian had faced dangers before and emerged victorious. Yet, even with his confidence and experience, there was a part of him that understood the gravity of what lay ahead. The legends surrounding the Crimson Isles spoke of cursed gold and spirits of the damned, and though Adrian was not a man to be easily swayed by superstition, he knew that the line between myth and reality could be thin. As he stood at the helm, the wind tugging at his coat, he steeled himself for whatever the journey might bring, determined to claim the prize, no matter the cost. "Raise anchor!" Adrian's voice cut through the morning air, clear and commanding, resonating with the authority of a seasoned captain. The words were met with immediate action, the crew springing to life as they responded to his call. There was no hesitation, no second guessing, they knew the weight of the journey ahead and the importance of each order. Adrian's voice, firm and unwavering, set the tone for the voyage. This was a mission that demanded focus, precision, and unwavering resolve. The air buzzed with the energy of a crew ready to embark on a journey that could change their lives forever. The deck erupted into a flurry of activity as the crew moved to carry out the captain's command. Muscles strained as they gripped the thick, salt-crusted ropes, pulling with synchronized effort to haul the anchor from the depths below. The clanking of the heavy chain echoed across the deck, a rhythmic sound that mingled with the creaking of the ship and the whisper of the wind in the sails. The anchor, which had held the Siren's Call steady through the night, now rose slowly but steadily from the ocean's grasp, its purpose fulfilled as it was drawn back onto the ship. Every man knew his role, and every movement was purposeful. reflecting the trust and camaraderie that bound them together. As the anchor broke the surface and was secured on deck, the crew's efforts were rewarded with the sight of the open sea before them, unobstructed and full of promise. The chain rattled as it coiled onto the deck, the sound a satisfying conclusion to the task at hand. With the anchor raised, the siren's call was free to follow the winds, guided by the captain's hand and the destiny he pursued. Adrian's gaze remained fixed ahead, his mind already on the next steps of their journey. The ship was ready, the crew was prepared, and the course was set. The adventure to the Crimson Isles had begun. Mr. Graves appeared at Adrian's side, his face a study in contrasts, excitement tempered by a deep, underlying caution. The morning light caught the lines etched into his weathered skin, each one a testament to years spent at sea, navigating both calm waters and deadly storms. His eyes, sharp and observant, flicked from the horizon back to the captain, revealing a mixture of eagerness and wariness. The anticipation of the voyage ahead was clear, but so was the understanding of the dangers that lay in wait. Graves had seen enough to know that fair winds could be deceptive, and the calm before a storm was often the most treacherous. "The men are ready, Captain," Graves said, his voice steady but edged with the weight of experience. There was no doubt in his tone, only the certainty that came from years of service under Adrian's command. He knew the crew was prepared, their trust in their captain unwavering, but he also knew that the journey ahead was unlike any they had undertaken before. As he spoke, he glanced at the sails billowing above them, their white canvas catching the favorable winds that would carry them forward. Yet, despite the favorable start, Graves could not ignore the stories he had heard about the waters they were about to enter. Whispers of treacherous currents, hidden reefs, and ships that had disappeared without a trace lingered in his mind. "But the waters ahead, they've a reputation," Graves continued, his voice dropping slightly as if the very mention of it might summon the dangers. His words hung in the air between them, a quiet reminder that the path to the Crimson Isles was fraught with peril. Yet, even as he spoke, there was a spark of determination in his eyes, a readiness to face whatever lay ahead. For all his caution, Graves was a man of the sea, driven by the same thirst for adventure that guided Adrian. The risks were great, but so too were the potential rewards. As they stood side by side at the helm, the silent understanding between them was clear. Whatever the reputation of those waters, they would navigate them together, come what may. Adrian smirked, a glint of defiance sparking in his stormy gray eyes. The corners of his mouth curled upward, a mixture of confidence and challenge etched into his expression. He had heard the tales, the whispered warnings passed from sailor to sailor in dimly lit taverns and along creaking docks, but such stories only fueled his resolve. For Adrian Blackthorne, fear was something to be conquered, not cowered before. His smirk deepened as he turned his gaze back to the horizon, his mind already plotting their course through the waters that others dared not traverse. The thrill of the unknown, the promise of adventure, stirred something primal within him, urging him forward. His grip on the wheel tightened, knuckles whitening as he reaffirmed his control over both the ship and their destiny. The solid wood beneath his hands felt like an extension of himself, a powerful instrument through which he would command the seas. Adrian was not one to be swayed by superstition or daunted by the reputation of treacherous waters. To him, every legend and ghost story was a challenge waiting to be met, an opportunity to prove his worth. The seas ahead might be feared by others, but Adrian was determined to carve his own path through them, leaving behind a legacy that would be whispered in the same breath as those old tales. His determination was unshakable. Where others saw danger, he saw a chance to etch his name into history. "Reputations are built on fear, Graves," Adrian said, his voice low but carrying the weight of his conviction. His words were more than just a response, they were a declaration of intent. He turned slightly to meet his first mate's gaze, his eyes gleaming with a challenge that Graves knew all too well. "We'll carve our own through these seas." There was no doubt in his tone, only the certainty of a man who had faced down countless dangers and emerged victorious. The seas might hold their secrets, their shadows and whispers of doom, but Adrian Blackthorne would not be deterred. Together with his loyal crew, he would defy the odds and forge a path that others would fear to follow. With the anchor secured, the siren's call lurched forward, the sudden momentum sending a ripple of energy through the ship. The timbers groaned as if waking from slumber, responding to the pull of the strong winds that filled the sails. It was as though the very elements understood the urgency of their mission, the way the wind surged with purpose, driving the vessel onward. The crew steadied themselves, feet bracing against the deck, as the ship broke free from its stationary hold, the familiar creak and sway signaling the beginning of their journey. Adrian stood firm at the helm, feeling the ship come alive beneath his hands, a powerful force ready to be unleashed on the open sea. The sails strained against the wind, their white canvas billowing with the force of the gusts that swept across the deck. Each sail swelled, pulling the ship forward with a determination that matched the resolve of the men aboard. The ropes creaked under the pressure, taut with the energy of the wind that filled them, guiding the siren's call through the gentle waves with an almost effortless grace. The ship cut through the water, the prow slicing through the gentle swells, leaving a trail of foam in its wake. The open ocean stretched out before them, vast and endless, an invitation to the adventure that lay ahead. As the ship moved further from the coast, the land behind them began to shrink into the distance, until it was nothing more than a faint outline on the horizon. The transition from the sheltered harbor to the open sea marked the true beginning of their voyage, a point of no return. The wind, steady and sure, pushed them onward, away from the safety of familiar shores and into the unknown. For Adrian and his crew, the open ocean held the promise of both danger and reward, and the thrill of what awaited them at the end of their journey. With the wind at their backs and the vast expanse of the sea ahead, they sailed into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay in their path. For hours, the siren's call sailed steadily onward, the sun climbing higher with each passing moment. The golden light bathed the deck in warmth, creating a striking contrast to the cool sea breeze that swept across the ship. The combination was invigorating, a reminder of the ever-changing nature of the ocean. The crew moved with practiced ease, their hands deftly managing the rigging, adjusting the sails as needed to maintain their course. The rhythm of their work was punctuated by the occasional laughter or banter, a camaraderie forged through countless voyages together. Above the sound of the waves, their voices rose in sea shanties, the familiar melodies carrying a sense of unity that kept spirits high during the long hours at sea. Adrian stood at the helm, his eyes scanning the horizon as the ship sliced through the gentle waves. The sun's warmth was a welcome comfort, but his thoughts remained focused on the journey ahead. The map in his coat pocket weighed heavily on his mind, its cryptic symbols and faded lines a constant reminder of their ultimate destination, the Crimson Isles. He could feel the pull of that mysterious place, the whispered promises of wealth and danger mingling in his thoughts. Even as he watched his crew go about their tasks, he was acutely aware of the challenges that awaited them. The calm seas and clear skies were a blessing for now, but they were merely the prelude to the trials that lay ahead. Despite the routine of the day, Adrian's mind never strayed far from the map's secrets. Each turn of the wheel, each adjustment of the sails, brought them closer to the fabled islands where so many had failed before. The tales of cursed gold and restless spirits lingered in his thoughts, but they only served to heighten his resolve. As the hours passed, the sun rose to its zenith, casting a bright glow over the endless expanse of water. But to Adrian, the light only sharpened his focus, illuminating the path they had chosen, a path that would either lead to glory or doom. With the crew working diligently and the ship pressing ever forward, he knew that their fate would soon be revealed. As midday approached, the atmosphere aboard the Siren's call began to shift. The sun, once bright and unwavering, was gradually obscured by clouds that gathered on the horizon, their dark forms looming like a distant threat. The once clear skies gave way to a foreboding gray, the light dimming as the clouds thickened. It was a stark contrast to the peaceful morning they had enjoyed, and the change did not go unnoticed by the crew. The air itself seemed to tense, carrying with it a sense of unease that crept through the ship. The first hints of a storm were brewing, and the mood on deck grew more serious as the men prepared for what was to come. The wind, which had been a steady ally in their journey, now took on a sharper edge. It whistled through the rigging with a keening note, no longer the gentle breeze that had propelled them forward. Instead, it gusted with increasing force, tugging at the sails and sending ripples across the surface of the sea. The crew moved quickly to adjust the rigging, their actions swift and practiced, but there was no mistaking the tension that hung in the air. The change in the wind's temperament was a warning, a signal that the seas were about to become far less forgiving. The ship began to pitch more noticeably, the first signs of the ocean's growing restlessness. As the minutes ticked by, the once calm sea started to churn, the gentle waves transforming into rolling swells that grew larger with each passing moment. The water, darkening under the shadow of the encroaching clouds, seemed to writhe as if awakening from a deep slumber. The ship rocked with increasing force, the once smooth passage now a battle against the elements. The horizon, once clear, was now a shifting line between sky and sea, blurred by the gathering storm. The crew tightened their grips and braced themselves, knowing that the true test of their skill and resolve was just beginning. "Storm's coming, Captain," Graves warned, his voice low but edged with concern as he stepped up beside Adrian at the helm. His eyes, sharp and seasoned from years at sea, narrowed as he studied the darkening horizon. The clouds, thick and brooding, stretched across the sky like a curtain of doom, growing denser with each passing minute. The wind had shifted, carrying with it the scent of rain and the promise of violence. Graves had seen storms like this before, unforgiving and merciless, capable of turning even the most seaworthy vessel into a battered wreck. The tension in his stance spoke volumes. This was no ordinary squall. Adrian glanced at Graves, then returned his gaze to the horizon, where the tempest gathered strength. The old sailor's warning was unnecessary. Adrian had felt the change in the air, the prickling of his senses that told him trouble was brewing. He could see the storm front advancing like an army, its dark masses rolling and churning as if eager to consume everything in their path. The sky was a deep, menacing gray, streaked with flashes of distant lightning. The sea beneath it was already reacting, the once gentle waves now growing more turbulent, as if the ocean itself was preparing for battle. "Could be a rough one," Graves added, his tone suggesting more than just rough seas. This storm had the potential to be deadly. Adrian tightened his grip on the wheel, feeling the rough wood beneath his fingers. A rough storm was an understatement, but he knew they had no choice but to face it head on. There was no turning back now, not when the Crimson Isles were so close. The crew was already securing loose lines and battening down hatches, their movements quick and efficient, driven by the urgency of the approaching storm. Adrian's mind raced, calculating their best course through the coming chaos. He trusted his ship and his men, but he also knew that nature was a formidable foe. As the first fat drops of rain began to splatter against the deck, he set his jaw with determination. They would ride out this storm, no matter how rough it became. Adrian nodded, his gaze unwavering as he focused on the darkening horizon. The storm clouds loomed ever closer, a formidable wall of fury that would soon engulf them, but he remained calm. His eyes, sharp and clear, took in every detail, the swirling masses of clouds, the churning waves, the distant flashes of lightning. The sea was a living thing, unpredictable and wild, yet Adrian had faced its wrath more times than he could count. He had learned to respect it, but never to fear it. "Aye," he replied, his voice steady and resolute, carrying the confidence of a man who had weathered many tempests. "But we've sailed through worse." The weight of his words hung in the air, a reminder of the countless storms they had survived together. Adrian's presence at the helm was a source of reassurance for the crew, a beacon of strength in the face of uncertainty. He could feel the ship beneath him, the subtle shifts in her movement as she responded to the growing waves. The siren's call was more than just a vessel, she was an extension of his will, a trusted companion on this treacherous journey. Adrian's hand tightened on the wheel, his grip firm as he prepared for the coming onslaught. "Keep her steady," he instructed, his tone leaving no room for doubt. The ship would hold, and so would they. As the first gusts of the storm lashed against the sails, Adrian's determination solidified. He knew what lay ahead would test their mettle, but he had faith in his crew and in his own abilities. They had weathered fierce storms before, and they would do so again. The sea was a cruel mistress, but she also rewarded those who dared to challenge her. Adrian's gaze remained locked on the horizon, his mind focused on the task at hand. There was no room for hesitation, no time for fear. They would ride out the storm, just as they always had, and when it passed, they would continue their journey toward the Crimson Isles, undeterred and unbroken. The crew sprang into action with practiced efficiency, their movements a coordinated blur as they prepared for the storm's onset. Loose lines were quickly secured, their tautness reassuring against the growing chaos of the sea. Men scrambled to batten down the hatches, their hands moving swiftly to fasten ropes and close off openings that might let water into the ship. The first drops of rain began to fall, light at first but quickly gaining intensity. Each raindrop struck the deck with a sharp patter, a prelude to the torrent that was about to engulf them. The atmosphere buzzed with urgency as the crew's diligent efforts transformed the deck into a fortress against the approaching storm. Above them, the sky darkened ominously, the once bright expanse of blue replaced by a dense wall of black clouds. The sun's light was completely obscured, swallowed by the encroaching tempest. The change in the sky was both dramatic and foreboding, casting a deep shadow over the ship. The dark clouds gathered in oppressive layers, seeming to press down on the sea and sky, amplifying the sense of impending doom. The air grew thick and heavy, charged with the electric tension of the storm as it brewed. The scene was both mesmerizing and menacing, a reminder of nature's power and unpredictability. Thunder rumbled in the distance, a deep, resonant growl that seemed to vibrate through the ship's timbers, resonating with an almost primal force. The sound was a constant, low-frequency reminder of the storm's raw power, echoing across the expanse of the ocean and reverberating through the vessel. Each rumble seemed to shake the very foundation of the ship, amplifying the sense of urgency and impending conflict. As the crew finished their preparations, their faces set in grim determination, the thunder grew closer, signaling the storm's imminent arrival. The scene was set for the fierce battle that awaited them as they braced themselves for the storm's full fury. The wind howled with a ferocious intensity as the storm finally bore down on them, its fury manifesting in a violent maelstrom. The once calm sea was now transformed into a turbulent cauldron, the water heaving and frothing as if enraged by the storm's onslaught. The waves, towering and relentless, crashed against the hull of the Siren's Call, sending sheets of spray high into the air. Each wave hit with a thunderous impact, reverberating through the ship and soaking the crew as they fought to maintain control. The ship was subjected to a relentless barrage of wind and water, its movements erratic and unpredictable as it struggled to stay afloat. The Siren's Call was tossed about like a mere plaything in the storm's grip. The once sturdy vessel, a symbol of Adrian's ambition and craftsmanship, now seemed small and vulnerable amidst the fury of nature. The ship pitched and rolled with each monstrous wave, its hull groaning and straining under the immense pressure. The rigging, taut and strained, whipped violently in the gale, and the sails flapped wildly, their fabric battered by the relentless wind. The crew, though seasoned and resolute, was visibly challenged by the sheer force of the storm, their every action driven by adrenaline and determination. The creaking protests of the ship were almost drowned out by the roar of the tempest. The storm's howl was a deafening cacophony, a relentless roar that filled the air with its primal rage. It seemed to swallow up all other sounds, turning the ship's struggles into a background noise against the storm's overwhelming power. The thunderous crashes of the waves and the shrieking wind created a symphony of chaos, enveloping the Siren's Call in a cocoon of sound and fury. Amidst this maelstrom, Adrian stood resolute at the helm, his gaze fixed forward as he navigated the ship through the heart of the storm, determined to see their journey through to its end. Adrian stood firm at the helm, his posture unwavering despite the chaos that roared around him. His jaw was set in a grim line of determination, his face illuminated intermittently by flashes of lightning that cut through the darkness. The wheel, slick with seawater, was gripped tightly in his hands, his knuckles white against the dark wood. His every muscle was tensed, his focus solely on guiding the Siren's Call through the churning maelstrom. The ship's movements were erratic, swaying violently with each wave, but Adrian's resolve was steadfast, his eyes locked on the treacherous waters ahead. Around him, the crew was engaged in a frantic struggle to maintain control of the ship. Their voices, though raised in urgent commands and encouragement, were barely audible over the deafening roar of the storm. The wind howled with a relentless ferocity, carrying away any sound that might have pierced its shrieking fury. The crew worked with synchronized precision, their movements sharp and determined as they secured lines, adjusted sails, and braced against the relentless battering of the sea. Their faces were streaked with rain and salt, their expressions a mixture of strain and resolve as they fought against the storm's overwhelming force. The storm seemed to envelop them entirely, a swirling vortex of wind and water that tested every fiber of their being. The sound of the storm was all-consuming, a cacophony of crashing waves, howling wind, and distant, rumbling thunder. Yet in the eye of this tempest, Adrian's leadership remained a beacon of stability. His gaze never wavered from the horizon, his hands never faltered on the wheel. As the crew battled against nature's wrath, they drew strength from their captain's unyielding presence. Together, they faced the storm with a shared determination, fighting to steer the siren's call through the tempest and into calmer waters. Suddenly, a sharp cry pierced through the tumultuous din of the storm, cutting through the relentless howl of the wind and the roar of the waves. "Ship off the port bow!" The call came from the crow's nest, a high and precarious vantage point where the lookout's eyes had caught sight of a new threat amidst the chaos. The words, though strained and urgent, carried a note of alarm that was unmistakable. The crew's heads snapped towards the direction indicated, their faces illuminated briefly by flashes of lightning as they squinted through the torrential rain and turbulent sea. Adrian's attention was immediately drawn to the warning, his mind shifting focus from the storm to the potential danger of another vessel. The revelation of a ship in such treacherous conditions was both alarming and concerning. He peered through the sheets of rain, straining to make out the silhouette against the darkened waters. The presence of another ship in the midst of the storm could mean anything from a chance encounter to a more sinister confrontation. His grip on the wheel tightened as he mentally calculated their course and prepared for any possible maneuvering that might be required to avoid a collision or an altercation. The crew, galvanized by the lookout's warning, sprang into action with renewed urgency. Their shouts and commands mingled with the storm's roar as they adjusted their focus from merely surviving the tempest to navigating the potential threat. The sight of another ship, veiled by the storm's fury, added a new layer of complexity to their already perilous situation. The waves continued to crash and the wind continued to howl, but now, every man on deck was acutely aware of the additional danger that loomed. Adrian's eyes remained fixed on the spot where the lookout had pointed, his mind racing through the implications of this unexpected development as he braced himself for whatever lay ahead. Adrian's head snapped up with a sudden jolt, his gaze piercing through the driving rain that obscured his vision. His eyes narrowed into slits as he strained to see through the thick mist and relentless spray. Despite the blinding sheets of rain, he caught a glimpse of a dark shape emerging from the tempest. It was the silhouette of a ship, its dark sails billowing ominously as it cut through the tumultuous waves with unnerving precision. The sight of the vessel was both startling and disconcerting, its presence a stark contrast to the chaotic backdrop of the storm. The ship's speed was nothing short of alarming. It moved with a force and swiftness that seemed almost supernatural, slicing through the roiling sea with an unnatural ease. The storm's fury was supposed to be a great equalizer, a force that impeded all who dared challenge it, but this vessel appeared unaffected by the tempest. The dark sails, full and taut, flapped with a menacing rhythm as the ship closed the distance between itself and the siren's call. The sight of it, racing against the storm's wrath, suggested a level of mastery over the elements that Adrian found both intriguing and unsettling. Adrian's mind raced as he assessed the situation, his focus now split between managing the storm and preparing for the approaching ship. The presence of this unknown vessel added a new layer of danger to their already perilous predicament. His instincts told him that the ship's unnatural speed and appearance were no mere coincidence. The storm had created an environment ripe for unexpected encounters, and this one could hold any number of threats. With the ship gaining on them, Adrian's resolve hardened. He needed to prepare his crew for whatever was to come, ensuring they were ready to confront this new challenge as they braved the storm together. "Pirates?" Graves shouted, his voice strained yet unmistakable amidst the gale's unrelenting howl. His words were a sharp burst of realization that cut through the cacophony of the storm. With a swift, practiced movement, He placed his hand firmly on the hilt of his cutlass, the familiar weight and reassuring grip of the weapon a stark reminder of the impending conflict. The look in his eyes was one of steely determination, his face set in grim resolve as he braced himself for the confrontation that loomed on the horizon. The wind whipped fiercely around them, carrying with it the salty sting of the sea and the distant echoes of the approaching enemy. Grave shouts seemed to rally the crew, their reactions swift as they began to prepare for the potential skirmish. The storm's ferocity was no longer the sole concern. The possibility of facing a band of pirates in these treacherous conditions heightened the stakes. Men scrambled to their positions, their faces etched with a mixture of anxiety and readiness, as they readied themselves for battle amidst the storm's relentless assault. Adrian, still at the helm, cast a hard glance towards the approaching vessel, his mind racing through the implications of this new threat. The presence of pirates, especially in such a storm, added a layer of danger that could not be underestimated. He tightened his grip on the wheel, his thoughts quickly shifting from navigating the storm to strategizing for a possible clash with the enemy. The ship, now clearly visible against the storm's backdrop, loomed closer, and Adrian's determination hardened. He would need to lead his crew with both skill and resolve, facing the twin dangers of the tempest and the pirates with unyielding courage. Adrian's lips curled into a grim smile, a fleeting expression of cold satisfaction that barely registered amidst the storm's chaos. His eyes, however, betrayed a steely resolve as he surveyed the approaching vessel with a calculated gaze. The notion of pirates daring to challenge the siren's call in such a tempest was a testament to their audacity, but it was also a challenge he would not back down from. The smile, though faint, was a reflection of his unwavering confidence and the fierce determination that had driven him through countless trials before. The storm's relentless roar seemed to fade into the background as Adrian's mind sharpened with focus. The prospect of a confrontation with the pirates, far from intimidating him, fueled his resolve. He had built his reputation on overcoming adversity, and the thought of these marauders underestimating his ship and crew only served to heighten his readiness for the clash. The grim smile was not merely a reaction but a declaration of his intent to defend his ship with everything at his disposal. He would ensure that any who dared to challenge them would quickly realize the mistake they had made. As the wind continued to howl and the waves crashed around them, Adrian straightened, his stance exuding authority and confidence. His hands remained steady on the wheel, guiding the siren's call with precision even as he prepared for the impending battle. The pirates would soon discover that this was no ordinary ship and that Adrian Blackthorn was no ordinary captain. With a resolute expression and a heart set on victory, he prepared to face the threat head-on, ready to prove that his ship and crew were more than a match for any who dared to challenge them. The approaching vessel grew steadily closer, its hull cutting through the turbulent waters with predatory precision. The ship seemed to glide over the waves, a sleek and menacing silhouette against the storm-tossed sea. Its steady advance, even in the midst of the tempest, conveyed an unsettling sense of purpose. The dark, shadowy shape of the ship loomed ominously, each churn of the water propelling it closer to the siren's call with a relentless inevitability that heightened the tension on deck. Adrian's keen eyes tracked the figures moving purposefully across the enemy ship's deck, their forms stark and undefined against the storm's fury. The shadowy shapes bustled with a coordinated energy, their movements suggesting a well-drilled crew prepared for battle. The wind howled and the rain lashed down, but the figures remained resolute, their intentions clear despite the obscured visibility. The sight of these determined enemies only served to sharpen Adrian's focus, every instinct alert as he prepared for the confrontation ahead. A sudden flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the scene in stark, fleeting brilliance. In that brief, electrifying moment, Adrian's gaze was drawn to the flag fluttering defiantly from the mast of the pirate ship. The flag was black as the stormy night, starkly contrasting with the storm's chaos, and emblazoned with a menacing skull and crossbones. The symbol was a stark declaration of their intent, an unmistakable mark of piracy that underscored the gravity of the impending clash. The sight solidified the reality of their situation, confirming that they were on a collision course with danger and confirming Adrian's resolve to defend his ship against the pirate threat. Battle stations! Adrian's commanding voice sliced through the howling storm, a clarion call that galvanized the crew into immediate action. The urgency in his tone brooked no delay as every sailor sprang into motion, their earlier focus on weathering the storm now shifting to the imminent clash with the pirates. The deck erupted into a flurry of activity, a disciplined chaos that belied the underlying tension. Each crew member knew their role, and their swift movements reflected their readiness to face the battle ahead. Cannons were swiftly loaded with a practiced efficiency, the heavy balls thudding into place as the crew worked with synchronized precision. The metallic clinks and the shuffling of gunpowder bags filled the air, a stark contrast to the natural cacophony of the storm. Meanwhile, swords were drawn with deliberate purpose, their steel gleaming in the intermittent flashes of lightning. The crew's faces were set in grim determination, their eyes scanning the approaching pirate ship with a mix of apprehension and resolve. The deck became a hive of readiness, each man preparing for the fight that was now unavoidable. The air crackled with the palpable tension of impending conflict, a charged atmosphere that intensified with every passing moment. The storm's roar and the creaking of the ship's timbers provided a dramatic backdrop to the mounting anticipation. Adrian stood at the helm, his gaze sharp and commanding as he oversaw the preparations. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and determination, knowing that the outcome of this battle could define their fate. The scene was set for a fierce confrontation, and every member of the crew was poised to meet the challenge head-on as they braced for the clash with the pirate vessel. The siren's call shuddered violently as a cannon shot roared from the enemy's ship, the force of the impact reverberating through the vessel. The cannonball whistled through the tempestuous air before plunging into the sea with a splash that sent spray cascading into the wind. The near miss was a stark reminder of the peril they faced, and the crew's nerves were electrified as they braced for the next attack. The tension was palpable, the storm's fury now mingling with the clamor of battle. Amidst the chaos, Adrian remained a pillar of calm authority. His voice cut through the storm and the din of battle with unwavering clarity, barking orders that guided his crew with unerring precision. His commands were measured and deliberate, each one aimed at maximizing the crew's efficiency and readiness. Despite the surrounding turmoil, Adrian's demeanor remained resolute, his strategic mind working swiftly to orchestrate the defense of his ship. As the crew executed their duties with practiced speed, Adrian's gaze remained fixed on the enemy's ship, his thoughts constantly assessing and recalibrating their tactics. His command over the situation was a testament to his experience and leadership, ensuring that each action was taken with the purpose of countering the threat. The storm raged on around them, but within the eye of the storm, Adrian's steady presence and strategic guidance provided a crucial anchor for his crew as they prepared for the relentless assault that lay ahead. "Return fire!" Adrian's command cut through the tumultuous roar of the storm and the clash of battle, his voice sharp with urgency. At his order, the deck trembled as the siren's call's cannons erupted with a deafening roar. The cannons belched fire and smoke, sending their own deadly projectiles toward the enemy's ship with a forceful discharge that reverberated through the vessel. The sound was a powerful counterpoint to the enemy's attack, a signal of their determination to fight back. The acrid smell of gunpowder quickly filled the air, its pungent aroma mingling with the briny tang of sea salt and the fresh sting of rain. The sensory overload was intense, the sharp scent of the gunpowder almost overwhelming against the backdrop of the storm's relentless downpour. The combination of smells, both familiar and chaotic, underscored the gravity of the conflict unfolding before them. Each blast of the cannon added to the sensory chaos, contributing to the frenetic atmosphere that enveloped the ship. As the crew worked feverishly to reload and aim the cannons, their faces were illuminated intermittently by flashes of lightning and the bright bursts of cannon fire. The storm's intensity only heightened the drama of the battle, the tempest and the skirmish merging into a singular, ferocious struggle for survival. Adrian's eyes remained locked on the enemy vessel, his focus unwavering despite the overwhelming conditions. With each return shot, he guided his crew with unrelenting resolve, determined to turn the tide of battle and secure victory against the pirate threat. The enemy's ship deftly maneuvered to the side, its swift movement allowing it to evade the brunt of the siren's call's cannon barrage. The ship's sudden shift was a testament to the crew's quick reflexes, their efforts aimed at minimizing the impact of the incoming fire. Despite their evasive tactics, one of Adrian's cannonballs found its mark, striking the enemy vessel with a resounding impact. The shot tore through the ship's wooden hull, sending splinters flying and causing the entire vessel to shudder from the force of the hit. The sudden, violent jolt from the cannonball's impact was accompanied by a chorus of shouts that echoed across the churning waters. The sounds of anger and pain, rising from the enemy's ship, mingled with the storm's roar and the clamor of battle. The cries revealed the immediate chaos aboard the enemy vessel, their crew reacting to the damage and the mounting pressure of the conflict. The atmosphere was charged with tension, the audio and sensory cacophony amplifying the stakes of the confrontation. As the two ships closed the distance, the sense of impending clash grew palpable. The enemy ship, though wounded, pressed forward with renewed determination, its crew rallying for the approaching battle. The siren's call surged ahead with a resolute momentum, the gap between the ships narrowing with every cresting wave. Adrian's eyes remained fixed on the enemy vessel, his focus unwavering as he prepared for the imminent board. The approaching confrontation promised to be fierce and decisive, a culmination of their determined struggle against the pirate threat. Adrian drew his sword with a practiced, fluid motion, the blade catching and reflecting the storm's eerie light in a gleaming arc. The metal's sharp edge seemed to shimmer with a cold, resolute brilliance, mirroring the fierce intensity in Adrian's eyes. His grip on the hilt was firm and assured, the weapon a symbol of his readiness for the imminent clash. The storm raged around him, but within that tempestuous fury, Adrian stood as a figure of unyielding resolve, his presence commanding and authoritative. "Prepare to board!" Adrian's voice rang out with a potent blend of command and exhilaration, cutting through the chaotic noise of the storm and the clash of battle. The call was met with immediate action as the crew of the Siren's Call readied themselves for the close-quarters combat that lay ahead. Swords were drawn, pistols were checked, and grappling hooks were prepared, each movement underscoring their readiness for the hand-to-hand confrontation that would soon ensue. The air was charged with anticipation, every member of the crew fully aware of the gravity of the upcoming clash. As the two ships closed in on one another, the final preparations for boarding commenced. Adrian's gaze remained focused on the enemy vessel, his heart pounding with the thrill of the impending battle. The storm's ferocity seemed to heighten the intensity of the moment, the wind and rain blending with the adrenaline surging through his veins. The scene was set for a dramatic clash, and Adrian, poised and resolute, was ready to lead his crew into the fray, determined to seize victory and claim the prize that lay ahead. As the ships collided with a bone-jarring crunch, their hulls scraped and groaned against each other, the violent impact sending shudders through both vessels. The force of the collision reverberated through the timbers, a sharp reminder of the intensity of the clash. With the ships now locked in a grim embrace, the crew of the Siren's Call surged forward with grim determination. Grappling hooks were hurled across the gap, their iron claws latching onto the enemy vessel's rigging, while cutlasses were brandished with lethal intent, ready to engage in the chaotic melee that was about to unfold. The deck became a tumultuous battleground, the air thick with the cacophony of combat. The clash of swords rang out like sharp metallic symphonies, each stroke and parry underscoring the ferocity of the fight. Shouts and cries of rage mingled with the grunts of exertion, creating a discordant symphony of battle sounds. Above, the thunder cracked with a deafening roar, its ominous growl resonating through the storm and adding a dramatic punctuation to the already frenetic scene. The sky's fury seemed to mirror the violence below, heightening the sense of chaos and urgency. In the midst of the storm and the fray, the contrast between the elements and the human struggle became starkly apparent. Rain poured down in relentless sheets, soaking the combatants and making the decks slippery and treacherous. Despite the storm's assault and the brutal close-quarters combat, the crew of the Siren's Call fought with relentless resolve, their movements driven by the promise of victory and the necessity of survival. The battle was a visceral dance of steel and storm, each clash and cry a testament to the fierce determination of those locked in the struggle. Adrian led the charge with relentless determination, his movements a blur of precision and power as he cut through the enemy ranks. Each swing of his sword was executed with lethal efficiency, the blade flashing through the dim stormlight with a deadly gleam. His heart pounded fiercely in his chest, the rhythm of battle syncing with the thundering beat of his pulse. Adrenaline surged through his veins, heightening his senses and sharpening his reflexes as he fought with singular focus. The battle was not just a fight for survival but a personal quest to protect his ship and crew, and Adrian's resolve was unwavering. The storm raged around them with unbridled ferocity, its wrathful winds and torrential rain amplifying the chaos of the battle. The sea itself seemed to join the fray, its waves rising in violent swells as if to mirror the tumult on the decks. Lightning slashed through the sky, illuminating the combatants in stark, fleeting flashes that highlighted the ferocity of their struggle. The wind howled through the rigging, carrying with it the stinging salt of the ocean and the resonant clash of steel. Adrian's every move was accompanied by the roaring tempest, creating a backdrop of elemental fury that heightened the intensity of the conflict. Amidst the storm's fury and the melee of battle, Adrian's determination never wavered. His eyes were locked onto the enemy, his focus unshaken despite the chaotic conditions surrounding him. Each thrust and parry was executed with a relentless drive, a testament to his skill and his commitment to his cause. The ship's deck, slick with rain and blood, became a treacherous battleground where Adrian's leadership and prowess shone through. His presence was a beacon of steadfast resolve, guiding his crew through the storm and the fight, his every action underscoring his unyielding dedication to the defense of his ship and the pursuit of their perilous quest. Through the chaos of battle, Adrian's focus remained unshakable, his mind locked on the singular goal that drove him forward. Each swing of his sword and every strategic maneuver was executed with a fierce, single-minded determination, the distractions of the storm and the clash of steel fading into the background. His thoughts were consumed by the map that had guided them to this point, the tattered parchment that had led them through treacherous waters and into this fierce confrontation. Every moment of combat was a step closer to the elusive treasure that lay in the uncharted waters ahead, and Adrian's resolve was fortified by the promise of what awaited them. The storm's fury raged on around him, but Adrian's thoughts were a steadfast anchor amidst the turmoil. As lightning flashed and waves crashed, the image of the map and the enigmatic X marking the treasure's location was etched into his mind with unwavering clarity. The map was more than a guide. It was a symbol of their quest, a tangible representation of the legendary riches and the adventure that had driven them to this point. The memory of the map's intricate details fueled Adrian's determination, his every action in battle a testament to the significance of their journey and the value he placed on the treasure. Even as the battle surged and the ship was tossed by the storm, Adrian's purpose remained clear. His focus on the treasure was not merely about wealth but also about fulfilling the promise of the adventure and proving his mettle. The enemy's resistance and the storm's wrath only heightened his resolve, each clash of his blade a step toward the realization of his ambition. The thought of the treasure that lay ahead, shrouded in mystery and danger, drove him onward with an unrelenting intensity, guiding his every move and fueling his determination to see their perilous quest through to its end. Finally, as the storm began to wane and the tempestuous clouds started to break apart, the last of the enemy pirates fell to the deck with a resounding thud. Adrian stood amidst the remnants of the battle, his sword raised high in a gesture of hard-won victory. The steel of his blade caught the diminishing light of the storm, glinting with a victorious shine that mirrored the relief and triumph surging through him. The fierce determination that had driven him through the chaos of the storm now gave way to a profound sense of accomplishment, his heart swelling with the success of their struggle. The crew of the Siren's Call erupted into cheers, their voices hoarse from the exertion of battle but filled with the raw, unfiltered joy of victory. The sound of their triumphant cries cut through the remnants of the storm's fury, a jubilant chorus that celebrated their survival and their conquest. The deck, now strewn with the detritus of the fight, was alive with the bustling activity of men securing their prize and tending to the aftermath. The atmosphere was charged with a collective sense of achievement, the crew's camaraderie forged stronger through the shared ordeal. As the final echoes of their cheers faded into the stillness that followed the storm, Adrian surveyed the scene with a satisfied smile. The crew's morale was high, their spirits buoyed by the victory and the promise of the treasure that lay ahead. The storm had tested their mettle, but they had emerged victorious, their resolve and skill prevailing against the odds. With the enemy defeated and their ship secured, Adrian's thoughts turned once more to the journey ahead, his mind already focusing on the next steps in their quest for the fabled treasure of the Crimson Isles. As the enemy's ship drifted away, a broken and burning husk against the fading light, Adrian turned his gaze back to the horizon. The once furious storm clouds were now receding, parting to reveal a sky tinged with the soft, tranquil hues of twilight. The transition from the violent storm to the serene calm of dusk was stark, painting the sky with gentle shades of pink and orange. This change in the weather mirrored the shift in the mood aboard the Siren's Call, where the tumult of battle had given way to a hard-earned sense of peace. The sea, which had been a roiling expanse of frothing waves and crashing surf, had begun to settle, the relentless tumult of the storm giving way to a more subdued, rhythmic swell. The waters, though still marked by the storm's fury, now moved with a more measured grace, as if acknowledging the crew's victory and their struggle. The violent churn that had previously defined their journey had mellowed into a more respectful agitation, reflecting the calm that had begun to descend upon the ship and her crew. Adrian stood at the helm, his eyes tracing the retreating storm and the calming sea, feeling the weight of the day's events settle into a reflective quiet. The horizon before him, now clear and revealing a sky of promising tranquility, offered a moment of respite after the chaos. This glimpse of calm was a reward for their resilience, a prelude to the continuing journey towards the Crimson Isles. As the ship cut through the now gentle waves, Adrian's thoughts turned to the path ahead, the promise of treasure still beckoning, and the challenges yet to come in their quest. Adrian's voice cut through the lingering murmur of the crew, a decisive command that reasserted their purpose and focus. With a swift, practiced motion, he sheathed his sword, the blade sliding into its scabbard with a soft, reassuring click. His posture, firm and commanding, reflected the gravity of the moment. He took his place at the helm once more, his hands gripping the wheel with renewed determination. The thrill of battle had faded, replaced by the relentless drive to pursue their goal. The promise of the Crimson Isles, and the treasure that lay beyond, was now their sole focus. The crew, still catching their breath from the fierce engagement, sprang into action at Adrian's command. They moved with a newfound urgency, their earlier exhaustion tempered by the adrenaline of victory and the anticipation of what lay ahead. Orders were barked, and the ship's course was adjusted with precision. The sails, which had been hastily resecured during the storm, were now unfurled once more, catching the steady breeze as the Siren's Call began to turn towards their new destination. The energy aboard the ship shifted, driven by a collective resolve to press forward. Adrian's gaze remained fixed on the horizon, the setting sun casting a golden light over the tranquil sea. The storm had passed, leaving behind a clearer path to the Crimson Isles. Every inch of the ship was now dedicated to the pursuit of their goal, the map's promise of treasure and adventure drawing them ever onward. As the ship adjusted its course and the crew worked with renewed purpose, Adrian's thoughts were solely on the journey ahead, the imminent discovery of the legendary treasure, and the legacy that awaited them at the end of their perilous quest. The crew moved with a sense of urgency and purpose, their previous fatigue replaced by a shared eagerness to leave the battle behind and forge ahead with their quest. Every man and woman aboard the Siren's Call worked with determined efficiency, their movements synchronized as they adjusted the rigging and secured the ship for the next leg of their journey. The once chaotic deck now hummed with the focused energy of a crew united by the thrill of their hard-won victory and the promise of the adventures that awaited them. The remnants of the storm were gradually washed away by their renewed resolve and the steady rhythm of their ship cutting through the calm sea. As the Siren's Call sailed further into the fading light of the day, the golden hues of twilight cast a warm glow over the vessel and its crew. Adrian allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction, his gaze drifting over the scene of their triumph. The battle had been fierce, the storm relentless, but they had weathered both with grit and determination. The sense of achievement was palpable, a welcome reprieve from the immediate dangers they had faced. Yet, amid this moment of respite, Adrian remained acutely aware that their journey was far from over. The true test of their resolve and skill still lay ahead, shrouded in the mysteries and perils of the Crimson Isles. As the ship continued its course into the deepening twilight, Adrian's thoughts were already turning to the challenges yet to come. The map's promise of legendary treasure was a powerful motivator, but it was also a reminder of the dangers that awaited them. With the storm behind them and the battle won, Adrian steeled himself for the trials that lay ahead, his focus unwavering as he steered the siren's call toward the horizon, where the Crimson Isles awaited. With the wind favoring their journey and the allure of untold treasure propelling them forward, Adrian and his crew sailed with a renewed sense of purpose. The once tumultuous sea now lay calm beneath them, the gentle breeze filling the sails and propelling the siren's call steadily towards its destination. Each member of the crew felt the weight of their mission, their excitement palpable as they prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. The anticipation of discovering the fabled Crimson Isles infused their work with a sense of urgency and determination, making each task a step closer to their grand goal. Adrian stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the horizon, where the last light of day cast a warm, golden sheen over the ocean's surface. The map, securely tucked in his coat, was a constant reminder of the treasure they sought and the perils they might encounter. The storm and the battle had tested their resolve, but those trials had only strengthened their commitment. As the ship cut through the water, Adrian felt a deep satisfaction in knowing they had survived the worst and were now forging ahead towards the promise of glory and riches. The path to the Crimson Isles was fraught with uncertainty, but the crew's spirits were high, driven by the collective dream of claiming the legendary treasure. They moved with a blend of readiness and excitement, their minds focused on the adventure that lay beyond the horizon. Each day brought them closer to their goal, and despite the potential dangers that lurked in the uncharted waters, the promise of the treasure guided them unwaveringly. Adrian knew that the journey would test every ounce of their courage and skill, but with the wind at their backs and the thrill of discovery ahead, they were prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them.